Go ahead and read.
saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last.
Now who we dealing with? Jesus. We dealing with Jesus, aren't we? Go ahead and read.
And what thou seest, write in a book.
Uh-huh.
And send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and unto Smyrna, and unto Pergamos, and unto Thyatira, and unto Sardis, and unto Philadelphia, and unto Laodicea.
Go ahead.
And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man.
Hold it now. He said, in the midst of the candlestick, one like unto the Son of Man. Go ahead and read.
Clothed with garments down to the foot.
Clothed with garments down to the foot. Go ahead.
And girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were white like wool.
Wait a minute now. His head and his hairs were what? White like wool. Go ahead.
As white as snow. And his eyes was a flame of fire.
Who got woolly hair? Black people got woolly hair, don't we? But this is what he saw. He said his hair were like white wool. As white as snow. But look at what else he said though, verse 15. Go ahead.
And his feet like unto fire, like unto fine brass.
His feet like unto what? Fine brass. Go ahead.
As if they burned in a furnace.
As if they had been burned in a furnace. Now what color is that then? And who we dealing with? We're dealing with Jesus here, aren't we? So now I don't understand how people got a problem with somebody saying he black when you read it right here in the Bible. Read that over.
Yes, sir. 15. 14. His head and his hairs was white like wool, as white as snow. His eyes were as a flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, if they burned in the furnace. And his voice as the sound of many waters.
Go ahead.
And he had in his right hand 7 stars, and out of his mouth went a sharp two-edged sword, and his countenance was as the sun shineth in his strength.
Now, who we dealing right here? He said his feet was like unto fine brass, as if they had been burned in a furnace. We dealing with Jesus right here, aren't we?
Yes, sir.
So we know that the Lord was a black man now, don't we? Despite all the pictures we have seen all our lives, now we know by reading the Bible that the Israelites were black, and we know that Jesus is black. We know that Moses is black, don't we?
Yes, sir.
But did the Israelites, did they change colors? Let's go to Jeremiah, the 13th chapter. Jeremiah 13. We ain't got much more to go. Jeremiah, I think this point has been proven already. Jeremiah 13, and we're going to pick it up in verse 23. Jeremiah 13 and 23. And if anybody got a problem with it, they got a problem with the Bible. Are we still online? Okay. Go ahead. 13 and 23. Go ahead.
Can the Ethiopian change his skin?
Can the Ethiopian change his skin? The Ethiopian, which was Cush, Ham's son, right? He's still Ethiopian, ain't he?
Yes, sir.
He's still black, ain't he?
That's right, brother.
Go ahead and say, can the Ethiopian change his skin? So the answer to that question is what?
No. Oh, no.
Go ahead and read.
Can the Ethiopians change his skin? Or the leopards hit spots?
Can a leopard change his spots? What's the answer to that question? No. Go ahead and read.
Then may ye also do good, that are accustomed to do evil.
Now, so the Ethiopian can't change his skin, and neither can a leopard change his spot. So now I'm going to show you that Israel can't change his skin neither. Because the ancient Israelites, we know that they was black. So, you know, did he change colors when you get down to the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st century? He changed colors? Come on, let's see. Let's see. First, let's go to Exodus, the 2nd chapter. Exodus 2. And we're going to pick it up at 11. Exodus 2 and 11. Exodus 2 and 11. Go ahead and read.
And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren and looked on their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew him. He slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrews strolled together, and he said to him that did the wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and a judge over us?
All right, he said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? Skip down to verse 15. Go ahead.
Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses...
You see that? Moses knew her. Moses got the cut. Because Pharaoh was going to kill him. Just like he would have killed him when he was a baby. And now Pharaoh heard this thing. He sought to slay Moses. Go ahead and read.
But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian.
Go ahead.
And he sat down by a well. Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came and drew water and filled the troughs to water their father's flock.
Go ahead.
And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock.
Now, these shepherds, apparently, the women smaller, so they, took the women's water and everything. But then Moses stepped in and saved the women this time. Go ahead.
Verse 18. And when they came to Reuel, their father, he said, how is it that ye are come so soon today? And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds.
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. He said, and they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds. Now, how is Moses mistaken for an Egyptian? We know that the Egyptians are black, don't we?
Yes, sir.
Now Moses, he just left Egypt, so he had on Egyptian's clothes, though, right? But just because you got on Egyptian's clothes, if I go and put on a Japanese outfit, that don't make me no Japanese, do it? I'm still black. I'm not Japanese, right?
Teach.
So they said an Egyptian delivered us. Why? Because Moses, at that time, the Egyptians was black people. So Moses was black. And he was dressed in Egyptian clothes. Obvious. They said an Egyptian delivered us. Otherwise, he was white and he had on Egyptian clothes. He was white Hebrew. Then they would have said a Hebrew delivered us. He had on Egyptian clothes, though, or something to that effect. But no, they said an Egyptian delivered us. So Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian, wasn't he? But we know Moses was an Israelite. Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian. But we know that he was an Israelite. Will you finish that?
No. And they said an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us, and watered the flock.
Now, let's show you somebody else. We're going to go all the way down to the 1st century. And we're going to show you somebody else that was mistaken for an Egyptian. We're going to Acts 21. Acts 21. And we're going to pick it up at verse 37. Show you somebody else all the way down. Now, Moses like 1400 something BC. Okay? Moses like 1450 BC. Now we're going all the way down to the 1st century AD. Because can the Ethiopian change his skin?
No, sir.
And the leopard can't change his spots, can he? Well, the Israelite can't change his skin neither. We're going to Acts 20. So Moses was mistaken for an Egyptian. Now let's see somebody else in the first century that's mistaken for an Egyptian. We had Acts 21 and 37. Acts 21 and 37. Go ahead and read it.
And as Paul was to be led into the castle, he said unto the chief captain, May I speak unto thee? Who said, Canst thou speak Greek?
Wait a minute now. He said, but Paul asking the captain of the guard, he said, can I speak to you? He said, can you speak Greek? Because you know Paul was speaking different languages. So he said, can you speak Greek? And then what did he say?
Art not thou that Egyptian?
Wait a minute now. He called Paul an Egyptian. Paul didn't have on no Egyptian clothes. Paul had on Roman clothes. Because he said he was a citizen of Rome. So Paul had on Roman clothes. Now why is he mistaking Paul for an Egyptian? Why? Because Paul was black. And the Egyptians were black people, weren't they? And now this captain of the guard, he called him Paul. He said, can you speak Greek? He said, are not thou that Egyptian? He called Paul an Egyptian. Now Paul had to be black then, didn't he? Go ahead and read.
Yes, sir. So are not thou that Egyptian which before these days made of an uproar and led us out into the wilderness, 4,000 men that were murderers?
He said,